Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and today we're reading Saturnastra Nalini. This is chapter 4, part 2. The first sacrifice. Forward passage. This proved to him that the flute had no magical properties. He noticed that the flute was carved from a milky white quartz. He tried to play the flute, but when he blew on it, no sound came out. When he noticed that the flute did not make a sound, he gave up on playing it. I figured that his mage brain was trying to decipher the mystery behind the flute, and whatever conclusions he came out with felt unsatisfactory. He threw back the flute and I tried to catch it, but it fell square in my face. This made him laugh. He asked me, "How does your flute work?" I could try to explain to you, but you will not get it, even if you knew how it works. You do not have the physical capability to play the flute. What I said made my father frown. He thought I was making myself difficult on purpose. In the end, he decided that it was pointless to press the issue. I asked him, "So what do you want to talk about, father dearest?" My father frowned deepened into agreement. In a harsh voice, he said, "When we are alone, I want you to call me by my name. I do not consider whatever you are my flesh and blood. So yourself, I could become your flesh and blood if you felt like it," I said, sitting up. "Really?" he asked with disdain. "It still does nothing about your soul. A demon soul is a demon soul, and a human human soul. Perhaps the lines between a human soul and a demon soul or an elf soul are often blurred. Nothing is ever that convenient." What I said gave him much to think about, and his thoughts ran deep and felt mysterious, and I could not even grasp the strain of his thought. Needless to say, he was thinking of someone who had said those very words to him. After a short period of silence, he said, "You have a point. I still do not feel right calling you by my daughter's name. What do I call you? What is your true name?" "For now, my name is Nalini. I like how it sounds, so I'm gonna keep it. It is my new name from now on," I said obstinately, folding my hands. "Fair enough. My real name is Odani," said Odani. I too am not what I appear to be. Just out of curiosity, what happens if the flute breaks or gets lost?" I snapped the flute before him, and I threw the remains out the window, and I got out from beneath my sleeve 5 identical flutes like the original, and I threw them out the window as well, and Odani heard them smash against the floor. And my father watched his proceedings with undisguised humor, and he motioned for me to get closer, and he inspected the ends of my sleeves, and he kept saying his silly little spell, searching for the smallest shred of magic around me. And I placed my hand behind his ear and made the flute appear, and this made him laugh. Smiling, he said, "Well played, girl," and he motioned me to return to my seat, and I sat with my legs crossed on the couch, and I yawned and rested my head on my hands, and for a few minutes we said nothing. A faint drizzle fell over the elf forest, and a cold wind made the flames flicker ominously, and I could not tell what my father was thinking, and I watched the flames dance within the fireplace, and the more the flames danced, the happier he looked, and suddenly he drank the entire glass in one gulp, and he poured himself another and another. And again I could not tell what he was thinking. It seemed to me that he was drowning his thoughts in wine, and all that remained was the ever-elusive intention. His eyes seemed razor-sharp focus, and his maze training kept his emotions under control even when he was this inebriated, and even his thoughts and judgment had flown out the window, and it seemed to me that he was testing me, trying to figure out the best way to hide his thoughts from me. And like an automaton, he casted his first spell mechanically, and in his drunken fury he did not care to match the fact that he could perform a spell that was not associated with light magic. And he shot a lightning orb out the window, and the shot was echoed by the lightning that fell on the tree outside the window, and the shot set the tree ablaze. And he languidly rose from his chair, and he stood by the open window, and the stillness had left his entire body, and for once in his life he seemed relaxed. And he watched with interest the coming tempest, and the rain quickly put out the fire, and he whispered a spell beneath his breath, and sobriety returned. Truly, elf healing spells could cure just about anything, so like he got drunk, and then he casted a healing spell to sober up immediately. When he was sober, he was pleased by the progress he had made. He had noticed that I had watched him keenly throughout these outbursts, and normally I did not pay close attention to anyone in particular. At most, I only maintained eye contact only for manners' sake, and Nalini had resolved to find a more efficient way to completely block out my thoughts. And we said nothing to each other for a few minutes, and Nalini was the first to break the silence. He asked me, "How are you getting along with the Apotheosis?" Same old, I said with this thing. Like Apotheosis, Gramir, like the elf king guy. Does he not know? He asked somewhat surprised. I'm just as surprised as you are, Nalini. I mean, it's so obvious. I see love has blinded the poor fool. Or maybe he's just in the now. What do you want me to do with the Apotheosis? Nothing, he answered. We said nothing to each other for quite a while, and by now the storm had passed and the sky was still cloudy, and from time to time a faint glimmer from the Titan moon or the sky dove was visible, and my father left the window and he sat back down on his desk, and he gave a soft yawn, and while he yawned I noticed his large canine teeth. He licked them and thought that it was just about that time. Time for what? I did not know. Like licking his canine teeth. It's almost time. It's like, time for what? And most I could only sense his immediate thoughts. He closed his eyes for a bit and he asked, "How can you go on without sleeping? Despite all our magic, we had yet to conquer sleep." "It is called somnambulism," I responded, lying back down. His sleepiness was contagious, and even in my lethargy, I still felt my surroundings. Yawning again, he asked, "Is the world really going to end?" "I don't know," I said, closing my eyes. "Can one person truly cause such damage?" he asked, nodding a little. I didn't respond to his question because he had fallen asleep. And I went to my room and brought back a blanket and a pillow, and I covered my father with a blanket, and I placed a pillow under his face. And unconsciously, he rested his face on the pillow while hugging it, and I noticed some wrinkles beneath his eyes and his forehead, and it was as if he had aged a few years in a few hours. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye.